Welcome to the Discount Property Investor Podcast, where we show you how to buy real estate at a discount so you can create wealth over time and income today. Our mission is to share what we have learned from the experience of others and help you make more money investing like a pro. We want to teach you how to create wealth by investing in real estate, the Discount Property Investor way. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. Today I am flying solo. It's been difficult for Dave and I to get in the studio together and record because we have so much going on. So much exciting is happening in the company, and we want to share some of that with you guys, as well as keep getting the word out there about how to get started investing in real estate. If you're a first-time listener, please go back and check out the free wholesale course. You can find that at www.freewholesalecourse.com. Again, that's freewholesalecourse.com. There we put together an entire course that shows you how to get started in wholesaling. We've got everything you need to get started. If you haven't checked out the podcast before, we also cover a lot of the basics in the first 10 episodes. That's a great supplement to the course, so go check those things out. It's going to give you guys everything you need to get started in wholesaling or investing in real estate with little to no money. Basically the wholesale way. Another thing, exciting thing we've got coming up internally is our REI Traction event. So on November 4th, it's coming up next weekend actually, we put together a group of, ourselves and others that are going to host the event to share basically the basics of real estate investing. And the idea behind it is helping people who have heard about real estate investing decide exactly what it is they want to do. So we cover the three kind of main areas of real estate investing. That is wholesaling. Dave and myself and Ray are going to be covering that. Then we've got an expert on flipping, and we're going to be talking with, I think Tim Grimmett is going to be hosting that section. And then landlording. And Bill Merritt, our partner, is going to be talking about that one. So we're talking about, again, the three main ways to get started in real estate, and we want to help people figure out exactly how to get started. So again, if you haven't checked that out, we'd love to see you guys again next weekend, November 4th. It is here in St. Louis at Spazio's. You can register at reitraction.com. It's going to be a great event. We're really looking forward to that and doing more of those. So again, really hope that we see a lot of you guys there. Last bit of housekeeping here. We've got and I don't know if we've ever really announced this on the podcast. We put together an app for the Discount Property Investor Podcast, so it's a little bit easier to listen to. And that is available for free in the iTunes Store or the Google Play Store. So you can download that for whatever device you have, Android or Apple. Go ahead and download the Discount Property Investor Podcast app. And that way it'll keep you up to date on all the episodes. All right, so today, again, I wanted to delve into a Q and A. And this is one of my favorite things, sharing knowledge with people. It's one of, I know, Dave's favorite things too, so he's a little bummed he can't be here this morning. But I'm going to answer a couple of the most common questions that we get, or some pretty common questions that we get. So I'm going to glance down at my notes here. Okay, so how do I find owners when I'm doing driving for dollars? All right, so what is driving for dollars, first off, if you haven't heard of that? Well, driving for dollars is a great way to locate distressed properties. So you're out and driving around in decent neighborhoods, but it looks like a property may be abandoned, or it looks like it's in distress, like the homeowners aren't able to maintain it. So you write those addresses down. So how do you find those addresses? The easiest way, or to find the owners rather, the easiest thing to do is to go and look in your county assessor's office. And here in St. Louis, it's very easy. I mean, you could probably Google the county assessor. So type in your county and then assessor. It's going to pop right up. And in St. Louis, we've got a really great system. Type in the property address. It gives you a whole bunch of data about it. The county is different than the city. The county is really, really good. But all of them have all the information readily available. And in there, you're going to find the owner of record. So it's the person who's listed as the owner of that property, as well as their mailing address. And that's huge. So then what most people do is take that property and that address and they mail them a letter. So you'd start with the yellow letter. So again, how do you find the owner's address, or how do you find the owners of Driving for Dollars? Basically go look on the county records. It's public record, public information. One step further on that would be take a little bit more time with it, and you can skip trace the owner. So again, you go to the county records, you find the owner's name, then you go to another website. We use Intellis here pretty heavily. It's a great service, very inexpensive, but you can also just Google the name. There's a whole bunch of places. You can use Facebook. It's another way that we track down owners. So you look up the owner's name, and you just try to get a hold of that person. Again, and if you find the phone number, that's better than sending the direct mail. It's a little bit more work, but again, your whole intent of sending that letter is to get that person on the phone. So if you can go one step further, take a little bit more time, find that person's phone number and dial until you get a hold of them, well, then you've already accomplished your goal, is getting a hold of that owner. So I started to digress a little bit, but that's how you would go about finding the owners of properties when you're driving for dollars. And I glossed over the easiest one. You can go and knock on the door of that property. They might be living there, if it's not completely derelict, or you can go and talk to the neighbors. It's another great way. I actually just went on an appointment yesterday where I drove up, and I was a little bit early, so I circled around and I saw a property that had the grass was pretty tall, and there was a sign on there that said it was condemned. So I knew that nobody was living there. So I got out and I took a picture, and someone came up to me and said, "Hey, how's it going?" And I said, "Oh, hello, my name's Mike. I'm looking to buy a house down the street." She goes, "Oh, yeah, you're supposed to meet me over there?" And it was actually the owner of the property I was going to meet. She lived on the street, and she knew about that one. So I'm going to be trying to buy both properties on that street. So again, the neighbors are a great source of information as well. Next question. Okay, and this is one we just got from one of our students, is if you put together a list or you buy a list and you get the same owner, the same mailing address on the list 10, 15 times, should you mail that person for each individual property? So again, say they own 123 Main Street and their mailing address is, X. Well, then they also have 128 Main Street and that mailing address is still X. So it's the same person. It's the same person. Should you mail that person 2 letters saying, "I want to buy this property and I want to buy this property"? My personal philosophy is you don't need to mail them 2 letters. I would recommend changing your direct mail piece just a little bit to say, "Hey, dear Mr. Owner, I'm interested in buying your property at 123 Main Street or any other properties you might own." And again, that puts that seed in their head that you are a property buyer and you're looking for properties in that area. It's not necessarily just that property you want to own. The flip side of that is the owners probably know the game. Chances are they've gotten direct mail from somebody else before, and they know that you're an investor looking to buy a property. So 90% of the time, if it's a multi-property owner, they've gotten these letters before. So it's not news to them that you're an investor trying to pick up a property. On the flip side, some people would say, well, maybe mailing them, if you keep all 10 addresses on your mailing list and you're rotating through, you're going to mail them a lot more, and you may be the one that they call when they decide they're ready to sell a property. So again, there's 2 sides to that coin. Again, we have a pretty developed direct mail system that does the follow-up for us pretty frequently, so I wouldn't recommend it. I say once you have that mailing address dialed in and you're mailing that person, I wouldn't recommend mailing multiple just because they own multiple properties. All right, next question. So where do I get a proof of funds? Okay, and this is a kind of a funny one. I think I've seen on a lot of the groups is where do I get a proof of funds? I'm going out and, Dave and I probably talked about this in a past episode about credibility packets. And the conversation on that part would have been, don't worry about putting a proof of funds in there. Put together your credibility packet, put a contract together, put the comps together, just kind of how you came up with the offer, and a little bit about you, business card, put it in a nice folder, and that's going to be enough credibility. The proof of funds, yes, it is going to help you stand out. There are services out there that can provide you with a proof of funds for, again, it just depends, a couple $100 a year. But honestly, if you're not able to close on that property, why get that proof of funds? To me, it's somewhat deceitful. And until you actually can have your own bank statement with the proof of funds on it, or the line of credit or something in that capacity that says that you've got the ability to buy the house, it's, yeah, again, my intent when we go out and look at a property and put a contract on it, it's always to close on that property. It may be a double closing, so we may be selling it off, but again, we always plan to close on the properties when we put them under contract. I mean, that is our absolute goal. So the proof of funds, you can go out there and you can get them. Do I recommend it? Not necessarily. I don't think it's necessary to even come up with it. I mean, again, just go out there, start doing some marketing, get started. If that's not going to be the difference between you and the next guy. If you're able to find a truly motivated seller, you're going to be able to get that property under contract. All right, so how much should I offer? And this one is kind of funny because, again, a lot of people, they say, okay, I've got this MAO formula, the maximum allowable offer, and I know that I got to buy at a 70% discount rate or 80% discount rate, meaning you take the after repaired value of the house, multiply it by that discount rate. So say it's in 80% area, so you take 100,000 multiplied by 0.8, and you come up with 80,000. Then you subtract your repairs and your wholesale fee. So say it's another 5 and another 5. So then your maximum allowable offer would be 70,000 in that case. Again, you take your ARV, so call it 100,000, times the discount rate, say it's 80%, minus the $5,000 for repairs and $5,000 for a wholesale fee. So you get to 70,000. So 70,000 is your maximum allowable offer. So the question is, how much should I offer? Should I offer that 70,000 up front, or should I offer something less? Well, again, I think that's totally dependent on the situation. You absolutely have to build some rapport with the seller and determine what is right in that situation. But my recommendation is always go in under that. So if your maximum allowable offer, again, just think about what those words mean. It's the maximum allowable offer. So it's the maximum amount that you're allowed to offer on a property and it still be a deal. Well, you don't want to start your negotiation right there. I mean, if you think about that for a second, it doesn't make sense. You're not going to be able to go back and forth and counter if you've already started at your maximum allowable offer. So there's a great book, Dave introduced me to it, called Never Split the Difference. And he talks about, the author of that book rather, talks about the Ackerman method. And it talks about a whole bunch of negotiation techniques. So you start off in this case, let's say we'd start off at 60,000. And then they would counter or whatever, and we would say, okay, well, we can push up to 67,000 or 65,000. So you've upped 5,000. Then they're counter negotiating and go back and forth, and they say, well, I need 69. Well, then you come back at a smaller increase than last time. You really cut it in half. So instead of going up 5,000, then come up another 2,500. So you started out at 60, then you offer your counter offer at 65. Keep going back and forth, then you counter offer at 67.5. So again, you end up at something at or below your maximum allowable offer, and that's, again, I think the best way to proceed with negotiation. So again, how much should I offer? It's always less than your maximum allowable offer. That's, again, my suggestion. But again, it's always dependent on the circumstance. So again, if you know you're in a multi-offer situation, there's other wholesalers involved, you've got to read the situation, and you have to, play the situation, play the hand that you're dealt. So, all right, what is a double close? So the next question is, what is a double close? And this is one that you see all the time from new investors because it's a little scary. You think, oh man, buying a house is an expensive proposition, and I don't have the $100,000 to go out and close on this property and then resell it to my investor for $110,000. I don't have $100,000 sitting in my bank account right now. How do I do that? Well, the answer is the double close. And the double close is pretty simple, but it's not something you have to know. So you're going to find an investor-friendly title company, and they're going to do the paperwork for you. I'll explain it like this. The title company is your best friend in this situation. They are the ones who are experienced handling this, and they're going to set everything up. They're going to coordinate the C buyer coming in to close first. And again, by close, I mean fund the transaction and sign their paperwork. So they're signing a purchase contract. Then you're going to come in and you're going to sign your purchase agreement. So one set of closing documents. Then you're going to sign your sales agreement. So another set of closing documents. Then the original seller comes in and they sign their sales agreement or their HUD-1 or settlement statement to sell the property. So again, there's two sets of closing paperwork, but the title company manages it all, and they use the C buyer's funds to fund your original purchase and then to pay you. So you don't need to worry about all the details as long as you found a good title company that can help you out. So ask someone in your market, hey, who are you using to do your wholesales when you're out there networking? Or again, just Google it. Just look for investor-friendly title companies, call them and ask them if they can do a dry funded double close. And if they know what you're talking about, great. If they don't know what you're talking about, move on to the next one. One caveat with that, make sure you're talking to one of the closers or closing coordinators at the title company and not just the receptionist. It is kind of important because they may not be as familiar with what is happening as some of the other closers are. And just because you've called or you've talked to one closer at a title company doesn't mean that the title company can't do it. They just may not be familiar with it. So definitely check around and get the contact details of a closer that you know someone else in the market is using, and that's going to save you a ton of time. So a double close, what is it? How do you do it? It's pretty straightforward, and it happens all the time. The other type of closing that can happen is an assignment, and in that case, you actually are assigning your interest in a contract, and that goes over to contract law. So you are originally a party to the contract between yourself and the seller, but then you assign your interest in that contract over to your end buyer, and you are no longer a party to that contract. So the end buyer just goes in and closes it, and the original seller goes in and closes it. So there's just really those two sets of docs at that point. The title company then pays you the assignment fee that was written or agreed to in that assignment of contract. So again, those are the types of closings and a little bit about double closing. What is the best mail piece? Or what is the most cost-effective mail piece? Or what mail piece has the highest response? So these are questions you get all the time, and you talk about it a lot. In our business, marketing is extremely important, and we say that all the time. It doesn't matter what business you're in the business of marketing. So sometimes I'm a bit cavalier when I say there is no silver bullet mail piece. The fact of the matter is you just have to start doing it. And that's what I want to emphasize, or hopefully kind of emphasized in this, is that you don't have to have all the pieces of the puzzle put together before you start. You just have to start. So we use a lot of different types of mail pieces. We use postcards, and we've used yellow letters, and we've used letters with little pennies or buttons in them. We use letters with pictures on it, and then with our business card in it, with magnets in it. All sorts of things. And I honestly, I'm not perfect at tracking our response rates and could always do better on our analytics. But the fact of the matter is, I don't see a huge difference between any mail piece. The market, and again, this is St. Louis market, is pretty saturated. So there's not a huge difference in the mail piece per se. I think the list is what's important. So you want to make sure you develop or build a good niche list. But the mail piece again, so which one's the best? Which one's the most cost effective? I mean, don't mail people iPods, but because again, that's $100 a person. I always go for the cheapest. So I always like to find the best deal on things, and we use Yellow Letter HQ. I'll throw the link in the show notes here as well. And I believe we're going to have the owner here coming on in an upcoming podcast as well. And he can talk a lot more about it with a lot more detail because, gosh, the volume that they're doing out of their mail center is unbelievable. I mean, ours is just scratching the surface. So again, just a couple of questions about wholesaling. Wanted to answer those. And again, without Dave here, I know it's a little briefer episode. I try to get very, very to the point. Dave elaborates a lot more. So again, hopefully you guys enjoyed this show. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please don't be shy. Send in your questions. Might be featured in one of our next episodes, our next Q and A question podcast. I know I enjoy doing these, and again, looking forward to communicating with you guys. Hopefully seeing you guys at the REI Traction event next weekend. Check it out, www.reitraction.com. And we'll leave you with the quotable quote for today, which is progress over perfection.
Thanks for listening to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. We would also appreciate it if you left us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Thanks in advance for your support. And remember, you make your money when you buy and get paid when you sell. Now let's go build some wealth.